Everyone talks about freedom like it's free, but it's not. You love your independence, but deep down you feel stuck, tied to a paycheck, a city, or a life that doesn't feel yours anymore. And you want to start over, maybe even move abroad. But the question isn't where do I go? It's how do I afford it? So let me take you back to the moment I realized that my price tag was $20,000 and that money wasn't just about things, it was about options. I was living in Boston at the time, a gated community, stable job, predictable routine, and on the outside, everything looked fine. I had my little 9 to 5. I wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic, just, life. And honestly, I did not hate it, okay? I liked my boss, I liked my team, and I loved that when I shut down my laptop at 4:30 p.m., that was it. No emotional baggage, no burnout. It was comfortable, it was safe, it was familiar. And here's the part I never admitted to myself. I was living paycheck to paycheck, no savings, no safety net, no investments, just vibes and a credit card doing CPR on my finances. I wasn't buying things that I could actually afford because I told myself, it's fine, YOLO, future me will deal with it. And the worst part, everyone around me was living the same way. We were all settling for average because, well, it wasn't terrible, and nothing was falling apart. So we convinced ourselves that we were okay, but I wasn't okay. And something in me was dull, muted, underwhelmed. My life wasn't painful enough to force a change, but it wasn't fulfilling enough to feel alive either. You know what I mean? So when you're stuck in that, I'm fine, but I'm not happy, days are blurry. You just exist, you wake up, you function, you repeat, and somewhere inside, you whisper, this cannot be everything. There has to be more than this. I wasn't dreaming, I wasn't growing, I wasn't using even half of what I knew I had inside me. And I was so caught up in the routine, I never stopped to ask myself the real question, is this the life I want? Or just the life that's easiest to maintain? And I want to ask you something because maybe you've been there too. Have you ever, stayed in a life simply because it was fine, not joyful, not inspiring, just tolerable? Have you ever felt like you're watching your own life from outside, like your potential is trapped somewhere you can't reach? If that's the case, that was me, comfortably stuck, quietly disappointed, and running on autopilot. And my twist, at least my wake-up call, didn't come from my job. It didn't come from money. It didn't come from my routine. It actually came from my love life, believe it or not. When I turned 30 that December, something clicked in my brain. 30 has a way of doing that to you, and it makes you evaluate everything. Where am I? Why am I still here? Is this the life I pictured for myself? And at that time, I was in a situationship, the one you swear isn't that deep, but it's costing you your sleep and your dignity. And I sat there thinking, girl, seriously, like, is this your life now? Like, is this the standard that you're accepting for yourself? And because I had just turned 30, that moment hit 10 times harder. It forced me to see all the places that I was settling, not just in love, but in every part of my life. So I walked away. And when you walk away from something that drains you, you suddenly have energy to think, to dream, to rebuild. So 2 weeks after my birthday on New Year's Eve, I woke up and decided I was going to take my life very seriously now. And I started reading personal development books. I started journaling. I started listening to podcasts, doing the inner work, rebuilding my confidence from the ground up, deepening my faith also. And because I needed something bigger to look forward to, I chose my dream. And the dream I always had, but never believed I could afford, was moving to Korea. Not a vacation, not a sabbatical, a real freaking move, like a fresh start, a full reinvention. And that decision, that moment, was the true beginning of everything that followed. Once I decided I was going to be 𝘹𝗮 2.0, the version of me that chooses herself, the next question was, okay, but how do I actually make this dream real? Because listen, you cannot just wake up one day and move to another country broke. That's not romantic. That's not brave. That's pure foolishness. And I knew that the biggest hurdle wasn't motivation. It was money. And here's something that I learned really, really fast. If your goal isn't specific, your brain will not take it seriously. So I sat down and got honest with myself. I asked, okay, what does my life in Korea actually look like? And how much is it going to cost me? I started researching everything: housing, moving cost, visa fees, language, school tuition, transportation, living expenses, emergencies. And I didn't just look at numbers, I visualized the lifestyle. Where would I live? How much would I need each month? What would I eat? How long before finding income? I wasn't just planning expenses, I was planning my emotional safety. And I totaled everything and the number came back Catching $20,000. That was the cost of my freedom price tag. And it would cover my flight, my move, my first year of housing and tuition, living costs. And honestly, the most important part, obviously, a caution to breathe, because emergencies, you never know, right? But there was one problem. Your girl had $10,000 in credit card debt. Yeah. So before saving for freedom, I actually had to dig myself out of the hole I put myself in. And that's when the mindset shift started happening. To save 20K, I couldn't just stay the person who spent without thinking. I had to relearn everything I believed about money, and three big shifts actually happened. The first one actually is when I went from YOLO to intentional discipline. Life feels a lot shorter when your bank account is gasping for air. So every dollar started to matter. Number two, I realized that money was a tool, not a master. Money goes wherever you tell it to go. If you don't direct it, it wanders off. And number three, I had to educate myself on money. And also realize that you hit a limit on cutting costs. After that, the question should be, how can I create more income? Once I put a number on my freedom, it stopped being a fantasy and it became an actual plan that I could follow. So here's my timeline just to give you an idea. 1 year to go from 10K debt to zero, 1.5 years to save the 20K, and 2.5 years of discipline, 2.5 years of becoming a different woman entirely. Saving is easy in theory. What's hard is becoming the person who can stick to the plan. So my step one was to budget. I actually respected my budget. Because my old budgets, they were cute, they were color-coded, but they were useless. They were tracking, but they didn't change anything for me. This time, I had a purpose, I had a dream, I had a version of me I wanted to meet. So the first few months, they were rough. I'm not going to lie. Breaking habits, denying temptations, saying no to myself, that was hard. But then I saw my credit card balance go down, and then my savings go up, and the feeling wasn't adrenaline, it was confidence, self-trust. That shift of, damn, I can actually make this happen. I can actually count on myself. With the budget, I became intentional. I cut what didn't matter. I reduced my expenses to essentials, and I tracked everything. For step two, I changed how I lived. I cooked more. No deliveries, no work lunches. I actually cooked and brought my food every single day to work. I also stopped shopping at department stores. I discovered thrifting, especially if you go to like affluent neighborhood. Usually you would have quality pieces for a fraction of the price. Luckily, I wasn't a party girl, so temptations regarding that, they were very minimal. My life became simple, minimal, and focused. But saving alone, like I said, wasn't enough. I had to make more money. So step number three, I increased my income on purpose. And two ways, actually. So during a company restructuring, while everybody panicked, I saw an opportunity, a role nobody wanted. It was too hard, too stressful. So I volunteered for that. And that decision changed everything because I became more valuable to my company. My salary increased. And as a result, my savings accelerated. And I didn't just stop there. I returned to a side gig that I used to do it back in college, which is French tutoring. I taught adults conversational French. And I helped kids from French private schools as well. And I charged $20 an hour. I found my clients on Craigslist, and I even did voiceover work for a podcast for a couple of months. So I said yes to many opportunities, and I did not wait for money. I actually created it. My advice to you would be to gamify your goals. Make saving a mission. You track everything, your monthly goals, your milestone, your mini rewards. And also don't just cut, okay? Increase your income, use your skills, offer services, learn something new, and make sure that you keep your dream visible. Print it, journal it, visualize it. I don't care. When the dream is clear and you see it every day, discipline becomes a devotion. Okay, so saving money or chasing a big dream costs you emotionally first. FOMO hits very hard. You are betting your present life for a future you haven't seen yet. You're saying no to brunches, you're saying no to trips and invitations, you're staying home when your friends are living their best lives. You're constantly balancing enjoying your life now versus not betraying your future self. It's freaking exhausting. And then comes loneliness. You live differently from people around you. They go out, you stay home. They buy clothes, you thrift. You do the right thing, but then you feel left out. Then the fear of, what if I save all this money and still fail? What if the plan doesn't work out? What if I hate it? What if I wasted years? These thoughts, they hit you at 1 a.m. when you're staring at the ceiling. But here's the twist, and that's something I had to embrace and understand. Emotional cost, they weren't a sign of failure. They were signs of me growing. With discipline and transformation, your character changes long before your bank account does. I stopped seeing myself as someone surviving and started seeing myself as someone preparing for a better life, for a better version of myself. And once you see yourself as someone who keeps promises to herself, everything changes. You stop being afraid of money, and you stop feeling behind. You stop shrinking. Money mindset isn't about numbers. It's about identity. And the moment I understood that the fear and the loneliness, they, not that they disappeared, but, they stopped feeling like punishment. And they felt like proof that I was becoming the woman my dream required me to be. So when that day finally came, when I got on that plane and I arrived in Korea, I cannot explain the feeling. I mean, the first 2 weeks, I would wake up and stare out the window like, am I actually here? Like, did I really do this? Like, I was so freaking proud. Not because I moved abroad to the city of my dreams, but because I kept a promise to myself. And because I became the woman who could make it happen. And what makes me laugh, even now, are the people who are impressed and also the ones who were so sure I would never follow through. People who thought that I was dreaming too big. I was happy to prove them wrong with my action. And even with, COVID happening, the war shutting down and everything being uncertain, my excitement, it did not fade. I was prepared. I was grounded. I was ready, because once you're sacrificed, once you've planned, once you've cried and you saved and you've grown, God, you become unshakable. So moving to Korea was literally the best decision I've ever made. Not just because of the 4.5 years I got to experience there, but because of the woman I had to become to get there. The discipline, the self-trust, the maturity. And honestly, the journey didn't stop there, because Korea taught me this. If you can build yourself once, you can rebuild yourself again and again and again. And moving abroad didn't just change my environment. It upgraded my identity, definitely. So if anything I said hit home for you, if something in your chest feels like it's waking up, take this video as your permission slip, okay? Your permission to want more, to dream again, to reinvent your life, whether it's a move, a job, a relationship, a new version of yourself, whatever it is. And if you know someone who's actually dreaming of a fresh start and feels like money is in the way, send them this video, because one day only happens when you decide you're worth building a future for. So thank you so much for watching until the end. Take very good care of yourselves, and you will see me in the next video. Bye.